Friends, this is the second session with several videos pointing out marks of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. The overall focus is on reaching and keeping the coming generations, but here I want to look specifically at Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They have a lot of similarities, but they're also distinctives, and so we're going to look at aspects of them to help know how to impact this coming generation that's increasingly unchurched but still very much reachable for the glory of God. Well, hello, friends, and welcome back. This is session 2 of a three-session series on the next generation, reaching them, keeping them, how to impact Generation Z and Gen Alpha. The newest generation who are just now entering into middle school. And so I'm going to consider, this session is about kind of marks or characteristics of these generations, and I'm intentionally keeping them together because they're the two generations that are the first digital natives, and there's a lot of things they have in common, but there are distinctives even within some of the commonalities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you several characteristics. Much of this comes from the influence of Mark McCrindle and others. Interestingly, one of the best places to find some research on generations is by studying marketing trends. These folks spend billions of dollars studying children and different generations because there's a lot of money represented in those families and in those lives. So that's been kind of a fascinating part of the research for me. But I want to talk to you about Z and Alpha and some nuances of each, but then I'm going to talk about some specific instances or issues with Gen Alpha that are especially relevant to them. So, first of all, I'm going to give you several perspectives. Some of this, again, comes from insights from others that I'm kind of collating together. Number one, this is the most obvious mark of this generation. The digital world is all they know. I mean, they don't know what it's like not to be around tablets, computers, smartphones, smart TVs, you'd think we'd be a lot smarter with all the smart technology today. But anyway, that's all they know. My great times 4 grandfather was a pioneer in the 1800s. He moved from the east to Alabama. That was kind of the western frontier part of it still then. After the Homestead Act was passed in the United States. And in 1884, my great times 4 grandfather homesteaded the property that is now our family's farm. And I still have the certificate from 1884, hand-signed from then. He was a pioneer. He left his family. He moved west and took risks to do that. Well, my parents' generation, they were pioneers. They were the first generation to go to the moon. Millennials were pioneers in that they were the first really to go deeply into the digital world. But Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're natives. They're not pioneers. They're natives. And so as natives, their pioneering is into the newer forms of that, which AI is probably the next one, the metaverse and so on. I'm not going to get into that because I'm a 63-year-old boomer. I'll let you do that. But I want to talk about larger trends. Today's youth, one expert says, spend on average 9 hours a day in front of screens. That's 63 hours, almost 3 full days per week. As a result, a 16-year-old in Missouri youth ministry likely has more in common culturally with a boy of the same age in Manhattan than with a 60-year-old in her own church. And you know that to be true. You know that's the case. And so we'll talk about some implications of that in the last session. So how does that work out in different generations? With Gen Z, the digital world they're in, they're recognized as digital integrators. For example, Gen Z has integrated technology seamlessly into their lives. They've used it from the youngest age, so it's like the air they breathe, permeating all areas of their lifestyle and relationships. One study in 2018 showed that 45% of adolescents said they were online almost constantly. So again, Gen Z, they're integrating all of their life into their digital world, the what we call the real world, as they are involved in things in everyday life. There's an integration that's happening there. And for us to help with Gen Z, we can help to integrate technology into the way we communicate the Bible, we communicate how to live and our discipleship and so on. Alpha is a little bit different. They're digital natives too, but they are digital creators. And you see this. I see this in the lives of my grandchildren. One person said Generation Alpha are empowered through technology. They create content rather than just consuming it through their technology. I got a grandson who's 11 years old, and he showed us, he sat us in his room. He's got this computer set up and this screen. He and some of his 11-year-old friends created this entire, I'll just call it a platform. I don't even understand it. But they communicate, they learn things, they do things together. It's a closed system. They've got safeguards. They don't let people in, predators and so on. They're careful. But my point is, they've created this whole space. And every day after school, they'll get together and they'll get on that and they'll communicate. But they're not using a social media platform. They're using a platform that they made themselves. Another example is my kindergarten grandson, who, here's a quote that relates directly to him. Gen Alpha creators like 10-year-old Ryan Haji. You know Ryan? Well, my grandson who's in kindergarten, that's all he talks about. Ryan. He can take you to any YouTube video. And for Christmas last year, he had to have one of the something invented by Ryan. Well, this Ryan, this 10-year-old, created kid-focused videos. I've watched a lot of them, believe me, that influence ideas, interests, and family purchases. In 2020, Ryan's World generated $250 million in merch sales. So this is not a little thing, and marketers, of course, are experiencing this as well. So learning to help Gen Alpha be creative in the way that they express their faith and grow their faith and so on is really important. Well, how does this affect the generation? How does the digital world affect these generations? Let me give you 4 marks under the general umbrella heading of the digital world that affects this generation today. The first one is they're more global. They're more global. I say that as I drink coffee, because it's early, man, from a coffee cup that I got in Amsterdam with some millennials I was with on a mission trip. But today, they're global without having to be global, okay? I can give you some examples. Newsweek magazine pointed this out. Boomers brought us international trade. Gen X connected the world digitally. Millennials activated global social issues, and Generation Z has its renewable energy. Then comes Generation Alpha, the first generation to be completely global from childhood into adulthood. They don't have to travel the world to understand the world. The world has come to them through the internet. So we need to teach. Here's an important part. I mentioned in the last session or the first session that the global church is in many ways thriving more than the American church. So help your students regularly see the impact of global Christianity. Don't make it seem like Christianity is an American religion, okay? And show them how, give them regular examples and updates and websites and links and videos that show them examples of global Christianity. We often do that in terms of the persecuted church, and I think we should do that. But also talk about the ways the church is thriving around the world.